Hello, hello, hello. Thank you all so much for being here today. We are so excited to see some new faces and to see some faces that have been a part of this project really since the very beginning conversations that started over 3 years ago. So thank you all so much for being here and really excited to start this conversation and for us to really get to our Bridges Rural Institution so they can tell you a little bit about what they have been up to the past couple of years. Couple of quick rules of engagement. We are recording this session, so we will be sending this out afterwards. So if there's others that you want to share it with, please do. We'll also have it on the lab social media platforms. Please mute your mic now. And when you are not speaking, this is as much for our friends who are joining us as also those who are speaking today. Let's just make sure that we are good stewards of the mute button here. Chat is your friend, chat is our friend, so please feel free to utilize the chat for any questions that you may have. We are going to be going into breakout sessions after the institutions have done their share out. So we want to make sure as they are talking about their projects, as they are talking about their pilots, if a question comes up, a comment, please feel free to put that directly in the chat. We have moderators of those breakout rooms that will then be collecting those questions to be used during that time. So as things come up, please put them in the chat. Also, feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. I'm assuming that's already happening. Anytime I work with rural places, everybody's already doing that. So please feel free to make those connections in chat and get those questions ready for the breakout sessions. So again, thank you so much for coming today. Just a little bit about the Education Design Lab. The lab, for those of you who are not too familiar with us, we are celebrating our 10-year, as we say here, lab anniversary. So we are so excited for 10 years at the lab. And the lab really started with this question of thinking about what does the future of learning and work look like from the perspective of those whose future we're talking about. So in the past 10 years, we have really been focused on co-designing, testing, and building new models and approaches as we really think about the affordability, relevance, portability, and the visibility of what learning can look like in this rapidly changing knowledge economy. Since our start 10 years ago, we've worked with lots of institutions, lots of employers, and we're really shifting our focus to thinking about that broader ecosystem when we think about the learning and skills economy. So super excited for you to be here. If you want to learn more about the lab, please feel free to check out our website. So when we talk about the future of work and learning from that learner perspective, we're really talking about what the lab calls new majority learners. So who are those who have really been historically disengaged from post-secondary education and opportunities because of the systems that were built for them to be inaccessible. So we're thinking about transfer students, we're thinking about single moms, and for this project specifically, we're thinking about our rural communities. I'm so excited that we had the ability to focus on rural communities who are near and dear to my heart, growing up in a rural community in central Illinois. So excited and thankful not only to the lab, but to our friends at the Ascendium Education Group for allowing us to partake in this project. So quick shout out, the lab just had an amazing publication come out last Thursday. So again, like I said, we're 10 years in, so we're looking towards the next 10 years to really have this conversation about what are the 5 design questions that are shaping the future of learning. So what have we really learned in the past 10 years? And how do we think about that as a future forward piece? And a lot of the examples and the insights from that piece were curated from the work that these 5 rural institutions did. So we encourage you to download that, comment on it, send us feedback, all of that as we move forward. So again, as we think about the lab, we are a lab, so we're always testing and co-designing, but we do that within a methodology called human-centered design. So here you'll see a little bit more about the 4-phase process that the lab uses and use specifically as we think about our Bridges Rural Institutions, starting with understand all the way to ideate to launch. Part of our process is making sure that we are grounded in equity. So we infuse that with an equity-centered design approach that's really asking questions around the historical context of the places and spaces in which we are co-designing. How are we rebuilding trust with communities? I think we'll hear a little bit more about that, especially in the context of our rural work. And how do we get to process this product as something that can be replicated, whether it's at an institution, an organization, an employer, or even in your daily work. So grounded in this process, as well as this framework, our learner engagement framework, which is driven from self-determination theory. And a shout out to our friend Miriam, who's in the house, who has really brought this to life at the lab. So thinking not only as we are co-designing, right, these new approaches, how are we ensuring that the growth, agency, and belonging of whoever we're co-designing with and for is at the center of any approaches and designs moving forward. So really thinking about human-centered design with an equity approach that is grounded in a learner engagement framework. That brings us to Bridges, who we're all here to celebrate and learn from today. So 3 years ago, these wonderful 5 community colleges who were like, sure, there's nothing else going on in the world right now, came to the lab and said that they were really excited to learn more about how they might apply a process, right, to understanding their communities in a different way. And so we are so thankful to Eastern Maine Community College in beautiful Bangor, Maine, and we can see Deb's background with the mountains. So thank you for that beautiful background as well, for being a part of this. Finger Lakes Community College, which is located in Canandaigua, New York, which it took me a little bit, but now I can say that very easily, rolls off the tongue. Zane State College in Zanesville, Ohio, Washington State Community College, which is in Ohio, and also College of Eastern Idaho. So these 5 institutions stepped up and just were so excited. And it has been, and I've said this before, really the privilege of my career to be able to work with these amazing institutions and the people that are so dedicated to these rural places. So thank you to all of our institution team leaders and those in the community that are here today. So at the lab, we always start with a design question. And this design question was thinking about how we might strengthen the capacity of rural community colleges to serve as critical economic growth engines for their learners and communities. And I just want to make sure that we highlight that we're talking about learners and communities, because when we talk about rural places, we are talking about those communities. And so we really, from the very beginning, wanted to ground ourselves in thinking about the learners within that community as a whole. We, with some of friends who are here today that were a part of some early ideation and understanding, wanted to think about this theory of change as we walked into the space with our rural community colleges. So how could this project really provide an opportunity to connect rural scholars and practitioners nationwide? How can we showcase rural community colleges as innovative, resourceful, and creative? We know that they are, so we needed to showcase that. How are we building a national community of practice? We'll hear a little bit about that here in a second, and produce models that can be adopted by other community colleges and really that are impacting learners and communities nationwide by really providing more opportunities for people living in rural areas. So this was our theory of change and a lot of our guiding points as we move forward. This is our community of practice. We're all together. Again, you're going to have an opportunity a little bit later to join this community of practice and to be part of the engagement moving forward. But we're so thankful to our other partners. So I know a couple are here today that have helped us launch this community of practice space. So thank you so much. We have had 2 publications that have come out of the work that we have done together with these 5 rural community colleges. So in the chat, you can access these. These were also part of the invitation. We just really encourage you to take a look at these, share out on how you are seeing these within your own rural community. What else, right, that you're seeing what are the insights that are coming out of your work in this community space. And so the first one was really focused on the learners themselves and what did we learn from a learner perspective. And then also as we think about that broader ecosystem and bringing in employers, bringing in community support, what did this look like when we're thinking about economic agility? So again, we have these two pieces, these two publications that really drove these rural institutions as we were thinking about that building capacity for that critical change in economic growth. So as we begin, I want to make sure again that this is focused on these rural community colleges. Part of the lab philosophy is that we have to embrace a mindset that helps us think differently about our approaches, especially as we are thinking about not just co-designing new approaches and systems, but redesigning systems themselves. And so each of our 5 institutions took on all of these mindsets moving forward, and you're going to hear them dive a little bit deeper into these specific principles. So we asked, as you were thinking about change within your own community, within your own campus, that you remember that change is constant, that we're never failing, we're always learning. Relationships move at the speed of trust. What you pay attention to grows, and that there is always enough time for the right work. So on that note, I am so excited for you to hear from these rural community colleges and the wonderful people that have just invested so much, not only in this process, but in their communities and their institutions. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Deb Roundtree at Eastern Maine Community College.
Thank you, Leslie. Good afternoon. I'm Deb Roundtree, the Executive Director for Rural Development Initiatives at Eastern Maine Community College here in Central Maine, Northern Maine. The college is based on Bangor campus, which is where most of the activity happens, but I have been with the college about 27 years, so my work has always focused on the most rural of rural communities in Northern Maine. We like to call ourselves the other Maine because we are very rural. Our project consists of being in a community that has been involved in change over the last several decades. Just to lay a little groundwork, the community in which this project occurred was a mill community, which had over at one time employed 10,000 mill workers. And over a couple decades, all of those jobs vanished when the paper mills closed. So we're in a community in which there's lots of change and things happening in the community. So my work has always been involved with doing the best thing for the people in our region who really are truly place-bound in this area of the state. We're about an hour and 10 minutes north of the campus located in Bangor, Maine. The photo that Leslie is sharing is actually one of the employer's newest opportunities. It's an event center for New England Outdoor Center. And our project involved working with, since the pandemic, we're all aware of communities in which are struggling to find workforce, in particular this area of the state, which is a Four Seasons tourism destination. The tourism and hospitality industry suffered tremendously during the pandemic, where there were businesses that literally had to close. They weren't able to open on certain days of the week because of lack of staff in the hospitality, especially in culinary programs. So we had worked with the department chair at Eastern Maine Community College to design a one-year pathway in a condensed format that would allow people to learn a certain 3 micro-credentials towards the culinary program. This pilot program was designed for 15 learners. We had many, many community partners in this program, such as the 2 local high schools, the Regional Technical Center, and we actually hired 2 local chefs, one being the instructor for the local technical school to be the lab instructor for this culinary program. Never before had anything like this happened in this region, or had we been able to offer anything, because of the mindset of, well, we've always done it this way. We can't do it in, the local rural parts of the state because we don't have the equipment. We don't have the culinary space. So instead of thinking about it that way, we worked with the schools to find the largest commercial kitchen in the region to be able to provide this 5-week intensive training program. We reached out to local employers, such as the one in the photo here, who is one of the larger employers in the region. They have about 85 people on their staff right now, and their resort is 4 seasons, meaning that they have adventure tourism based activities all year long. And they were growing leaps and bounds and were creating an activity center, an event center, which would have a state-of-the-art kitchen to provide more opportunity for people to be employed. But unfortunately, really having a hard time to find qualified staff or staff with a skill set to go to work. So we reached out to them, created this pilot with several other employers in the region, such as the hospital, the schools, where they might be willing to send some of their staff to get this training as well. We hired 2 local chefs, like I mentioned, that brought this program to life. We had to purchase our own food. We had to provide not only the soft skills for this training, but the technical skills. And the students that went through this program, there were 15 people that attended this program. We had 13 people finish the program. Several of them went back to work with the hospital, the nursing home, 2 of the local schools, as well as the employer that's shown here in the photo. The great part of this project, I can't say enough, is the idea to take an opportunity that exists, and instead of putting more barriers up to people that live in these rural areas, really, really hard hit, to bringing an opportunity here in a different format that really spoke immensely to the people in this region and the community in which we work. We can't say that there weren't challenges. There's never failure. There's challenges, but not failure. I think some of the challenges we saw, unanticipated in this process was in order for the learners to earn that micro-credential, there was a bit of learning curve for those learners. Some had never taken a college course before. We had to do a brief introduction to Brightspace, which the instructor had to upload all of the learning documents and the skills assessment weekly into Brightspace. And that was terrifying for some of the learners. These were all adults, I would say on the age spectrum of mid-20s up to 60. And they were terrified by using technology. Brightspace was very, very scary. So on this panel today, I have my assistant, Jasmine, who, we were able to take calls and yield the panic from some of these learners, actually have them come in face to face and sit down with us and walk them through the process to submit their work, and in looking back at that, providing that equity that was assumed that learners and adults especially can understand what the use of Brightspace is, which is the learning platform used by Eastern Maine Community College. Thinking a hands-on culinary program would have to know how to use Brightspace was a bit of a stretch, but I can't say enough about this project and the opportunity that we had to partner with pretty much all of the organizations in this region we touched. And this all came about as an opportunity to answer a business survey that we had sent out the year previously, just before the pandemic hit, and looking at business needs and how can we train people. We're very good at training people in the electrical field or the welding field or business, but we had never taken on a challenge such as creating a culinary program that was able to be brought to the rural area. And, whether we had to beg, borrow some of the equipment, we did that as well. But again, learning is an incredible opportunity, and to give this program to people that had never had the opportunity to do something like this speaks so highly of when you have a team of people that are creative and have the mindset there is no failure. It is learning, and it's, going back and refining. So the future to this project is we had such a turnout. In 24 hours, we filled this program, and we had a wait list for 2 other cohorts. So, we've taken the feedback that we learned, we've gone back to the drawing board, refined some of the material, refined how we present this, and we plan to do 2 more cohorts at least in this project. So once again, thank you all for, I think I've used up my 7+ minutes, but I just wanted to say, this opportunity, when I look back at this and think of what 3 years ago would have been, no way, we're not going to do that, we've never done this, to a transformation in a mindset, we're going to do this, we're just going to figure out how. And if we don't have everything that we need, we will borrow, we will ask, and we will still be able to create a program that was successful for those who attended, and helping us create more pathways in the future for this population. So thank you, Leslie, and all from EDL and Design Lab for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Deb and Jasmine and the entire EMCC team for really embracing the never failure, always learning, and being such an amazing example of what it's like to think beyond, right, that the place-based or that center of where the campuses are, and to think more broadly about all of the different rural communities that you all are serving. So if you have questions for Deb or the Eastern Maine team, please start getting those together or putting them in the chat. And with that, we are going to head to Sarah at Washington State Community College.
Hello, everyone. It's so great to be here. Unfortunately, I'm the only one who is able to attend today from my team because of vacations and all kinds of summer plans. But I'm happy to talk about our project and the iterations. I feel like we should have Zane's group theme of change is constant, because that has also been my experience with this project, and it's been great. And I feel like we've learned a lot. So Washington State Community College is right on the Ohio River. Right across the river from us is West Virginia, and we are one of the smallest community colleges in Ohio. And I like to say we're small but mighty because we have a really dedicated workforce of faculty and deans and directors here that really wear multiple hats to get things done, like probably all of you at the rural community colleges here today. So one thing that we had seen when I got here 5 years ago was a declining enrollment in our engineering technology wing. And so we had gotten some grant funds to revitalize that space, but there was still a lot of questions on identifying the students and also redesigning the curriculum in a way that would benefit adult learners and our industry partners, and really help to grow the enrollment and to help feed the industry here, which much of it is chemical processing along the river. What we found was that we did a lot of work re-engaging with our industry in a way that was more of an intentional listening and responding to needs kind of way. The other thing that was really transformational was redesigning the curriculum with the student in mind, and helping also our industry partners understand our student needs as well. And I think that was really critical so that we could understand what supports they needed along the way. And the other thing that was transformational is that putting in the center our learners, understanding the real need for consistency in schedule and student supports. So they know what to expect and when to expect it and how to get what they need. And so the heavy lift was thinking about the curriculum and how we were going to redesign into using industry recognized credentials and embedding those into the curriculum. So the idea was one class, one credential. And we redesigned the whole curriculum and that with that mindset. So we did that. And then we did a lot of work talking with students, trying to understand what are their needs, and really focusing, because one of our wildly important goals at Washington State is to increase adult learners. And so looking at the population of female learners, particularly those who may be moms, who many of them were interested, what we were finding is many of them were interested in nursing pathways, not because they were necessarily interested in nursing, but because this was, again, a consistent, reliable pathway to a job. So what we were trying to do is show these females that we could also provide another consistent pathway into a in a family sustaining job that maybe wasn't healthcare, which they may not have been passionate about to begin with. And so one of the big wins for us was realizing that there were some childcare options that were available to us when we reached out to partners that had that capacity. So we talked to the Boys and Girls Club, and they were willing to offer childcare for adults in the evening, which was really, really exciting. And we were so thrilled. One of the roadblocks, though, which was very interesting, is that we found that the needs for childcare were for children of a younger age. We thought, wow, okay, we can do childcare for kind of a K-12 kind of group. But what we found was that our learners needed childcare for even younger children. And so that has been another area where we haven't given up, but we're working on how to solve that problem. So to expand our cohort of students so that we could collect some data, we expanded beyond the engineering technology wing and added the business technology wing for our what we called Evening Advantage. So what we offered was evening courses, and so let me talk about what we found out that worked in the last minute I have here. What we found was that business and accounting programs worked very well that way. And we did a high flex model so that students could come in and out and not fall behind. That. Secondly, what we found out with the engineering technology wing is that even shorter delivery worked. So Evening Advantage may not have been successful necessarily for our engineering technology programs, but what was successful was a program that we called 4 Fridays. And we worked with our industry partners for 4 Fridays to deliver a credential and then work on prior learning to walk that credential to college credit. So that's what we're going to continue to work on. And there is so much more that happened in between those from what we wanted to do and what we learned in the end, but I'm happy to talk about it more. And thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and everyone at Washington State Community College. We just so much appreciate it. Again, what you pay attention to grows, and always thinking about like what's the next iteration, what might we try differently. So thank you all so much. And now we are going to head quickly to Zane State. It's just down the road, so it's a quick trip from Washington State to Zanesville. And I am going to stop sharing because I know, Marcy, you have some things to share. So I will stop sharing and hand it to
Zane. Hold on, I lost you all. You're back. I'm back. We're in business. So sorry. All right. Oh, I need to share first. Hold on. I should have just sent you my slides. Leslie, you could have been in control. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Are you seeing presenter view or regular view?
The presenter view, you're good to go.
Okay. So Zane State, I have, there's a team because we do everything as a team. It helps to not be responsible solely for the brain. So today I have Tracy Porter and Shelley Zimmerman with me. They are both deans in the academic services area. Shelley is over health and public service. I'm over business, engineering, and IT, and Tracy is workforce development, and she's also our ALO for campus. So we love this. Remember, change is constant. Clear back when I was a student in getting my associate degree, we did a presentation. That was back when PowerPoint was brand new. If that tells you how old I am. And the one tagline from it was the only thing constant in life is change. And so that was so true with what we were learning with this project. So I'm going to kick it over to Tracy, and she, I think, yes, or no, to Shelley. I'm sorry, I'm kicking it over to Shelley. Who knows? And one of them is going to start talking.
Hello, and sorry, my camera is not working on my computer, so you don't have to look at me today. But one of the first things that we did when we started this project, we needed to define what rural meant to us, because there are just so many iterations of rural. Rural could mean country, being a farmer, being redneck. It could mean, and in our case, Appalachian. So one of the important things for us was to just even define what being rural meant. And our gallery walk really helped us with that by bringing in our community, talking to our students, talking to just people within our community to see what they thought of us and what rural meant to them. The gallery walk also really helped us to celebrate the positives in our community, because sometimes being rural, you get labeled with a lot of negatives, and that's not, that's not good. So we wanted to make sure that we were really spinning things to a positive light, how we were going to be portrayed in the community. We also were really focused on economic mobility. So, we really wanted to know, what are the gaps from, like, what did our community need? What were we offering? And where were the gaps in between? Were we offering, or are we offering, the right programs, the right certifications and credentials? And then looking to the future, what are the predictions? Are when we start planning new programs, are the new programs that we offer, just because it's the shiny new thing, is it really what the community needs? Is it really something that is going to, is it really going to be good earning potential for our students? Is it really going to be good job potential for our students, and be what aligns right with our industry partners? This process really started changing the way that we think about what we do every day and how we are planning for all of our future projects, not just academic programs and our academic services, but in what we do pretty much every day.
Thanks, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Tracy, you're up.
I'm up. Hello, everybody. So I'm going to talk a little bit quickly, because I know our 7 minutes will fly by, but what transformation looked like for us at Zane State. So early on, we had to learn to be very patient and to trust the process. So over and over again, we just, trust the process, because it was very foreign to us, the process of which EDL used to get us through that. And we're very happy that we did trust the process and EDL to get us through that. But the human-centered design piece of it, I would say, has been the most transformational for us as an institution, because now it has become part of our culture, and we're starting to push that out to other people on campus and other departments, but definitely within academic services. It is, and we're always asking, well, did we collect the learner voice? And we've even started calling everyone learners instead of students, because we're talking about potential as well. So learners is just now part of our vocabulary, and collecting that learner voice and really going back and starting the process. Sometimes it's an abbreviated process to the human-centered design, and maybe just collecting the student voice for that potential project. But overall, and so recently I've been involved in our new strategic plan and updating that. And human-centered design was mentioned more than once, and learner was mentioned more than once, and collecting that voice was mentioned more than once. And so that for us has been the most transformational, in my opinion. And then the employer relationships. So even like when Marcy and I, we meet a lot together with employers. Shelly meets a lot with employers, but she's more solo and out there. But starting to talk to them about collecting their learner voice, and what do their employees need and want, and what does that look like for them, and really starting to push that human-centered design and that learner focus and agency out to the employers. And I think it's really helped with our employer relationships, for them to see that we really have their employees and their best interest at heart, and we're not just trying to sell them training or a new program. So yeah, for me, that's what transformation looked like at Zane State College.
Thank you, Tracy. So the future for us, we didn't have a lot of time to go into what we actually did. So if you're interested in that, join us in our breakout room. It's breakout number 4. Tracy mentioned our shifting culture. At the end of this project, just at the beginning of this calendar year, we engaged with Carnegie to do a brand deep dive, I guess you would call it. And they confirmed what we learned when we did our gallery walk, that we are a welcoming and empowering institution. And so we're building upon those strengths with a lot of the things that we're going to be doing in the future, including our messaging. And we're not changing our branding, but we're just kind of enhancing it in a different way. Our pilot design was an earn and learn model. And we are going to continue our work with that. We were very successful the first go around. And Tracy mentioned our new employer relationships, that we are expanding with some local companies who are actually participating in some video work for us, because they are guaranteeing interviews to students who sign up for this earn and learn model. With one of our certificate programs, we were able to expand our earn and learn model into a phlebotomy certificate because of an employer relationship that we have in our community. We learned about College of Eastern Idaho did a cool thing called a combine. And so Shelly and her team took that idea and ran with it, and they did it for the health careers. Again, breakout session 4 if you want to hear more information about that. And we're also using this human-centered design to shape the future vision for academic services at Zane State College. We had a planning brainstorming session just last week, lined up perfectly, and we were talking about, how can we start to think about lifelong learning and being the option for lifelong learning for our students, for our learners, for our graduates, for them to look at us and say, okay, I earned my radiology associate degree through Zane State. Can I go back and get a mammography certificate, at a later point in time? So we're looking at ways to expand our offerings, but not to start brand new programs and have a big expense in all of that. And so we're thinking about this from a growth mindset, not just for the learners, but for the college as well. And Tracy, I'm gonna knock back to you for the first 2 on there, and then Shelly and I will finish this up. And I think we're probably almost out of time.
Yeah. All right, so Shelley and Marcy will take us home, but for me, we learned to say why not. So we did a lot of why when we were talking about new projects or just short activities or events. We were really bad about saying we tried that before and it didn't work. We tried that before and it didn't work. But now we have really embraced, you know, through this process of the reiteration and learning that it's okay to fail. We are more likely to say why not than to just go straight to no. So that's been very interesting for us to say why not, and to just go ahead and do something that's a good idea. So through our prototyping process, we come up with this idea of a market for students who were also parents, because maybe they didn't have time to go to the store. They had all these barriers, they had needs. So we actually started with that as one of our prototypes, and we decided, no, it's not going to be a prototype. It's easy enough. We have the resources. It's a good idea. We're just going to go ahead and do it. And that's what we did. And so now we just, if it's a good idea and we have the resources, we just try it. And so that's really exciting for us.
Thank you, Tracy. Shelley, do you want to talk about this last bullet?
Sure. So I think probably with all 5 of the rural colleges that participated in this, we can all talk on the relationships that we've built. But I mean, we've built national, regional, local relationships, and we've built relationships with the other community colleges, of course, with the Education Design Lab, but we've also built relationships with our 4-year institutions that are close to us. And so we're used to, maybe we didn't play very well in the sandbox with some of our other 4-year institutions. Now we're collaborating with on grant projects, and we're doing dually enrolled programs with one of our 4-year institutions. And so it's just some really awesome collaborations that we're doing now, some really outside of the box thinking that I don't think we really would have been there and been ready for, you know, if anyone has heard about Intel coming to Ohio, I don't really think we would have been ready for that had we not gone through this process beforehand.
Fantastic. And then, you know, our cohort colleagues have been amazing through all of this. And that was probably one of the warm fuzzies that I took away. Was it felt like, you know, we went to our first convening in person. We got to know each other via Zoom. And then we took a chance and, you know, went to Maine and met everybody. And by the time we left, I just felt like I had this whole broader network of colleagues across the country. And that's when we really started sharing with each other. And, you know, Washington State is literally 1 hour away from Zane State. And so it's been really great to have a stronger, better relationship with our friends there. You know, we're doing a lot of cool things, just having conversations with them in our backyard that I don't know that we would have been comfortable having before this process started. So it's been great. And we just wanted to say thanks. We'll upload these slides. You'll get a link later that will show you where they'll be, but our email addresses are on here if you want to reach out to us directly. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy, Tracy, and Shelley. Really appreciate all that you just shared, and really how you have really embraced the process, this product as a part of the culture at Zane State. So thank you so much. We are going out west to the Wild West of the College of Eastern Idaho. So I am going to hand it over to our friends at CEI, who really embrace that relationships move at the speed of trust.
All right, I'm going to do a screen share, but I think Chuck's going to start us off. Did that change?
Yes, I just need to learn to unmute. You'd think after years of doing this now, we'd learn to it, but we can't. We are the College of Eastern Idaho, and we're a newer community college. We've only been in existence for about 6 years now. Before that, we were a technical college for about 45 years and really just served a very local market. To give you a little bit of perspective, Idaho is roughly twice as large as the state of Ohio. And so when you look at these and you go, oh, that looks like very small space, it's really not. We're a very big state and we have the largest piece there, or I guess it's pretty close to the largest, Region 6. And the area that we serve is roughly the size of New Hampshire and Vermont put together. So to give you a little perspective of Idaho. Most of our region is rural. It's really a challenge sometimes. We're at a higher elevation. We're in the big city of Idaho Falls, and it's about a little less than 70,000 people, but we are serving a huge area outside of the city. The college has done some previous outreach, but they were kind of mixed results. Give you a little bit of background. Idaho is somewhat unique in that from the other states that I've been in, I've only been here going on 3 years, but counties actually have the opportunity, instead of just being automatically in part of the taxing district, to join or not. And so we are limited. We've had some efforts moved out to some of the rural counties. It has not been terribly well accepted. Nobody wants to pay more taxes. Big surprise. And so many of the efforts that we've done have not been as productive as we would like. We found that a lot of times it was, we throw a class out there and we run it until it dies because we have exhausted the market in that place. And so that's a big challenge for us. Some of the things that we've done, we wanted to create a new paradigm for our relationships with our rural communities. We wanted to better understand them, to really hear them and hear what they have to say. We wanted to give them that voice in our outreach, so that we were not just saying, here's what you get because here's what we decided. It's what you need is what we want to hear. We also wanted to learn from our efforts previously that had not been very successful, and really to think about our strategies going forward, kind of be innovative, think outside the box, and also address the needs for diversity of our rural communities, because there are some challenges out there. Our goals were kind of to understand how to help students in the rural areas feel a part of the college, and to create some different intentional approaches to those communities, and then measure what we're doing. It doesn't do any good if we don't measure what we're doing and then be able to reflect on that and see what worked and what didn't. We also wanted to ensure that our efforts were making an impact, that we were really making a difference for people in those areas, and that we were meeting their needs. And to understand, we wanted our communities to understand who we are and what we can do to benefit their communities. And finally, we wanted to give rural students access to learning in their communities. This is critical because some of our areas, like where Dana lives in Salmon, Idaho, it's about well over a 2-hour drive, I think about 2.5-hour drive from Idaho Falls. And so we're talking some real distances, and you're talking at higher elevations where oftentimes the roads are totally impassable in the winter. And with that, I will turn it over to Mary.
Hi, everybody. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about what we learned, and Chuck just kind of alluded to it, but one of the things that we realized really early on is just that our service area, that area of Idaho that we serve, is so complex and huge and diverse. And we know that we have to customize what we're doing to the different micro communities that we serve within our region. And I think one of the things that we learned through this process is the word micro communities. I don't think I was saying that at all 3 years ago, and I think I say it all the time now. So we definitely look at with intentionality when we're talking about how we can serve different micro communities. And then we also, I will say, even Idaho Falls itself, right? I mean, we feel like we're in the city here in Idaho Falls compared to a lot of our other service areas. but we have some diversity and things that we're trying to serve here in Idaho Falls. All of Idaho is rural. Idaho Falls itself is rural. And then as we were going out, I totally agree with what Shelley was saying earlier, like identifying what does it even mean to be rural? Because for us, it is all of those things, right? Sometimes it's remoteness, and sometimes it's like location, and sometimes it's, you know, there's a lot of farming, and so there's some cultural things that are happening. So when we're talking about serving rural communities, one of the things that I think has come out of the work we've done with the design lab is that we say things like, we want to be rural serving, not just rural recruiting or things like that, because it's not always about enrollments for us. It's how are we truly serving the different communities. Also, because we're a new community college, as Chuck said, we've had that switch of now we're something different than we had been for 45 years. So the visibility and awareness of how the new College of Eastern Idaho can serve our different communities was a big part of what we wanted to address. When we did our surveys and our gallery walk, we found that a lot of people were saying, oh, I wish you had this, or I wish you had that. And it's things that we do. So it was just the fact that we're not good at telling people about the services that we were already offering. So how are we doing that in a new way? And one of the things that I think that we have that's really resonated with us is the fact that we have to be present. And that's difficult when we have to drive 2 and 3 hours in all directions to be present. But we know that being visible and being present is a big part of building the trust that we're talking about with our communities, so that we are the ones that they call when they say, hey, we're interested in having, you know, some of this. Can you guys at least help us find where to get it? So being visible is a big deal. Our project, one of the things that we did was a construction combine. So I'm going to go through this really, really quick. But basically, when we were surveying one of our micro communities in Driggs, the Teton Valley, housing and construction kept coming up over and over and over again. And so we said, well, how can we provide what this community needs? And so we partnered with local industries, the school district, and we held a 2-day, what we call a construction combine. Again, this is something that we do here in Idaho Falls, but the idea of taking something that we're doing and physically taking it to another location was kind of what the construction combine for us was about. And then we did this in Driggs. Then we also did another one in Salmon this year, where we bring it together, all of these different important aspects of people to learn together. And it's pretty amazing. And one of the things that I think came out of the construction combine this year for us is that when we did it in Salmon, we know that if we had only done it in Idaho Falls, there would have been maybe 2 students at the max that would have been able to participate in that event. But by taking it to the local community, committing to that 2-day event, we were able to serve 30 students at once in one location. So that was pretty amazing. We are probably running short on time. I'm going to pass this over to Dana Cotton, who is the 3rd member of our team.
Thanks, Mary. Hi, everybody. So really, I think, Mary, we're ready to go to the next slide, even though we can end the next one. So there are three main takeaways. And Chuck and Mary and actually everybody else has mentioned these words that I'm about to say, but I think really understanding, first of all, is that being intentional about every single step of any project, and including those communities, each community's uniqueness, as well as their strengths, right? Starting from a place of you know, the strengths of each community and meeting them where they really are. So I don't know how many times we said the word intention and intentional through all of our planning and implementing, and now as we reflect, but it is so vital. And then the second thing is along the same lines is to always keep that learner, everybody has said it, at the heart of it all, right? It's the learner engagement framework that we have embraced, and we dream about it So it's, but that's where it's at, especially for these remote communities like the one that I live in. That learner, we've got a lot of different kinds of learners, and each of those learners looks really, really different. So really just thinking about those. And then lastly, also intertwined with the other two is to continue leaning into our community partners and our campus partners. So knowing that we've got to go to the community partners and allow them to be part of the process. Again, going back to establishing trust and credibility, and really getting them to buy into this new idea of what college is, what our college is, that it's different than maybe the old perception of the unattainable college. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, College of Eastern Idaho team. I really appreciate that and just appreciate your intentionality as you thought about your micro communities and really understanding their needs. And so thank you. Thank you so much. And now finally, we are going to hear, we're going to head to upstate New York, the beautiful Finger Lakes, and I am going to hand it over to Deb.
Hi, everybody. We're here from Finger Lakes Community College, and our #1 leader, Todd Sloan, isn't here today. So just be patient with me as I try to share our information. And Joe, I think you were going to share some slides that we sent over. Okay, so just a little bit of background for those that don't know. So FLCC is located in Canandaigua, New York, in the heart of the Finger Lakes region here in New York State. We have a 250-acre main campus. We have 3 campus centers within 30 minutes of main campus, and that's one of the things that we wanted to integrate into our design. Here are the pictures of the 3 campus centers. We have Geneva, Newark, and Victor, and as you hear about our project, you'll notice that these were also played a part in the project. Some of the key learnings that we found when we looked into our population during the design process of this was that students, community, staff, everybody around us had love of the region. We had broadband issues. It was extensive, but some uneven. Transportation was a significant challenge. Access to support greatly varied. Sense of belonging was varied. And an awareness of local opportunities was potentially low. So key drivers for our targeted learners were career stability, family stability. So our project was FLCC GRIT. GRIT stands for Growing Rural Infrastructure Together. The basic idea is that students can work on classes that are part of micro pathways, and they can do them from many different locations. We have 7, as far as I know, I believe 7 partner locations now, 3 of which are the campus centers that FLCC owns, as I mentioned, but others are sites, and many of the partners are on this call today as well. The idea is that students can learn from these sites, and even if we don't have a whole cohort of students where a class could be offered, if we have even 1 or 2 being able to go to that location, then it becomes a viable education site for us. So that's the main idea of the project. And Joe, you can go on. Yeah. So one of the things that I apologize. One of the things that we really focused on was trying to come up with main things that we wanted out of the project. 3 of the things: local access, relevance and immediacy, and then personalized support. And so you're going to see that we really try to incorporate these things into the project. For the personalized support, that's probably my favorite part, was students wanted to know who their person is. So we wanted a single person who can assist students with navigating with learning from start to finish. So we have a success coach that does that. And this kind of shows you, so for keeping local, we wanted to partner with our GRIT community sites. We wanted these to be relevant, so they're all micro pathways that can lead into other degree programs at FLCC. And then for that personal touch, that was where the success coach came in. Distributed learning with the GRIT model, we wanted to eliminate the transportation and technology barrier and provide equitable access. So just to see, from the beginning through last year, this screen kind of shows us what we had accomplished at FLCC. So at that point, we had sites in Yates County Workforce Development, Bloomfield Central School District, and we had mainly the Certified Production Technician as the main starting program. Some of the outcomes are listed there, 13 enrolled, 12 completed. So kind of starting with a small concept and trying to grow forward from that. And then where we're headed now currently, and then to continue, is to add more GRIT sites. Currently, we have 5 partner location libraries, rec center, school district. 2 out of our 3 campus centers are participating right now. And we have 1 business site, Optimax. We're adding pathways in healthcare, skilled trades, and IT. And throughout these, they are using virtual reality as well in these programs. And this was some data that Todd could explain better if he was here. He put this together, but basically showing the career pathway or the micro-credential, how many started, how many completed, and then, who we have in progress. And this slide was put together for a presentation we did not too long ago, but things have changed as well since then, moving forward with summer courses and then planning for the fall too. So maybe we can share some updated data shortly. Some of the benefits and lessons learned. Our lessons learned were significant cost drops. Local in-person marketing was key. So, one of the things, kind of just touching on that point, we had Waterloo Rec Center come on as a site, and nobody ended up learning or attending through Waterloo Rec Center. However, because they did the info sessions about the program there, many students ended up taking the program from their own home through their own computer that resulted from having those sessions at that Waterloo Rec Center. So they were still a partner that really added, and we learned about the local in-person marketing being the key there. We learned about virtual reality, probably in many more ways than we needed to, and making those labs superior. For the future, obviously, we want to expand the programs offered, continue that in-person information sessions, just like I mentioned about Waterloo, but at all of our sites, using our campus centers more. So we have 3 campus centers. Those, we really want to utilize those to push this program forward, and then focus on other external partners. That was it.
That was great, Deb. Thank you for covering for us. And let me just add to Deb's point about remote access and meeting people where learners are and learning from home. I think we all think about how we are going to solve our issues when barriers arrive or problems come up all the time, right? But people in the rural communities may not have an answer if their internet goes out. So I think the more sites and the more opportunities we have to close those gaps and provide those holistic services really work. And I see how excited people have been about the Who's My Person and making sure that they have someone to walk them through the process and connect them to supports when they need them. So yeah, firsthand, I only saw the first year, obviously, but very excited about the efforts. I don't know if anyone has anything else to add or for a time. Maureen, you're supposed to give me the stopwatch.
Yes.
I will say thank you so much, and thank you, Deb. I appreciate you stepping up today, and just I think that that's just right, another example of this amazing team and all of the different partners, not only at the institution, but throughout the community that were a part of this design project. So I thank you so much. And I do want to just put a little teaser out there. I think, you know, the Finger Lakes, as they're thinking about, there's always enough time to do the right work. Spent a lot of time understanding what made sense when it came from a marketing perspective into these micro communities. And so some great learnings from that team as well. And we'll just also say that the Who Is My Person started as this project, and I believe is being adopted by the entire institution. So just a reminder of how much learning can be done on an even larger scale from these projects. So, all right, excellent, excellent. Thank you all so much for sharing. All right, I hope that you have all of your questions ready. I know that I have some questions, so I'm excited to jump in here. And so we are going to go into our breakout rooms now. So you will see that we will have 5 breakout rooms. So you are getting to self-select. We're going to have around 30 minutes in each of these. What we're going to do is ask you to self-select your breakout room, spend some time. We will record all of the breakout room sessions. So if there's one you can't decide, that's okay. We'll share the recording so you can hear that conversation and then be able to engage a little bit later within our community of practice so you can ask more questions yourself. So I believe that the breakout rooms are open. So again, feel free to jump into those breakout rooms and then we will call everyone back soon. Thank you all so much. I don't know about your breakout rooms, but ours was really interesting, some great insights, some great questions. We ended ours on talking about employers and what employer engagement looks like and what it means to invite employers to the table that also can think about what an employee-centered, human-centered design process might look like from that move from a learner to an earner, or so much. We know that that is all interconnected. So I appreciate that conversation. So let's keep the conversation going. So as you can see, we have our Participate Hub, our community of practice, Rural Together. And I think that Ty had to jump out, but we're so thankful to him and to Tyler and to Andrew and to Matt and to Rachel and to all of our Rural Together team members who have put a lot of thought into creating a space where we can continue to have these conversations. Again, that was a big part of our theory of change, and what we heard in our early learning was that there's not a lot of space for rural practitioners within the scope of thinking about the future of learning, work, and post-secondary education. So we really want to ensure that you all have the space to continue these conversations. So we will be putting all of the individual institution recordings and Participate, and we'll send that out all to you so you can listen to those recordings and to ask the questions perhaps that you did not get to ask, or the questions that come up after watching those. So again, please, you can use this QR code. I've been talking a lot, so I figured that way you all have gotten your cameras out to get these QR codes, or however you want to do that, but we'll be sending that out as well. So keep that conversation going. And also, again, just a quick piece of all of the resources that are in there. You can find links to some upcoming rural events. Our goal is to also start populating this with some other funding opportunities. We know that when it comes to post-secondary education, that community colleges are often not always the first in line for some of those large grant opportunities, and that also rural community colleges even fall behind that. So we want to make sure that we're creating a space for you all to see some additional opportunities for funding for different work, and also to just get inspired by the amazing work that's happening throughout all sorts of different rural community colleges in the United States. So jump in there and grab some resources and start that conversation. Thank you again to our friends at the Ascendium Education Group. We really appreciate them investing in this work and also allowing us to really co-design, right, the right word, I don't know, but say it, like the right approaches that made sense for the communities, right? And to really have the communities spend time learning more about the human-centered design process and their learners to be able to bring different approaches to those communities. So thank you so much to Cindy, and thank you so much to this wonderful, wonderful group of institutions, our Bridges Rural Institution. So thank you. We'll do a little, once they get on, we'll do a little round of applause. So we'll start with Eastern Maine Community College. Never failure, always learning. Thank you so much, Deb, and the entire Eastern Maine team. Thank you to Washington State Community College, looking for Sarah, and also looking to Kathy and that entire team for all of the wonderful work that you have done and all that we have learned about childcare and rural places and how that continues to just really weave into so many other conversations we're having. So thank you. Thank you to the Finger Lakes Community College for also being a wonderful host for us last summer, and the beautiful Canandaigua, and again, how you are really rethinking what it means to have a hybrid learning focus that is so learner and community specific. So thank you so much, so much. Thank you to Zane State College. Thank you, Marcy and Tracy and Shelly and that entire team for also always keeping a smile on our face and to continuing really to think about what it means for rural communities when you have these large corporations investing in different ways that might not always be understanding also those needs and opportunities that your learners want for themselves. So thank you so much for that. And last but not least, our Wild West. Thank you so much for the College of Eastern Idaho for really, again, thinking about micro communities and that really intentional approach on who are those different communities, what are their needs, and what does it look like to really invest in them in different ways and be okay right with that. And so we just appreciate you all. And thanks to the lab. Thank you to all of the lab team members. So thank you, Dawn and Maureen and Rebecca and Miriam and Joe, who came to us from the Finger Lakes. And also Brandon was on the call a little bit earlier. So we are so excited for Brandon. Thank you to our partners at HEI. I know Elisa and Katie are here today. Thank you so much for your evaluation work. We just appreciate you all so much. And thank you everyone that was able to join us today. If you want to continue learning, join our participate space. If you are interested in learning more about the lab, please go on and join our innovator network so you can hear a lot of what is happening here at the lab. We appreciate you all so much. And I just thank you as someone who grew up in rural places and spaces. I just thank you so much for your continued attention and your continued dedication and innovation in these spaces for yourself, right? Because we are also rural people, and also for those within your community. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day, a wonderful rest of your June, and keep an eye out because we might have some exciting news coming out in the next few weeks about what the future of rural and the lab looks like. So thank you all so much. Have a wonderful day.